start with the iNM, the NM's digital journey. So I've pulled the team of the iNM program in the room to deliver a presentation, and from the tech department as well, to show you what we do as the NM27 legacy, the last legacy delivery. So the iNM program is, in our view, an integral part of the new normal with two major milestones. You already heard that from Jacopo in his setting scene speech. 29th of November 2024, we start shadow operations. And then 15th of May, full operations of the new EAD, which is the first digital product. And of course, we will tell you, some of you have asked about the new building. All the exteriors is done. We are starting the fitting the interiors, as obviously next year during NM user forum, we'll arrange visits. You will see the new ops room, but we intend to operate in autumn next year with the legacy system to also to de-risk our safety case. The first argument will be we moved into a new building with the existing systems, and then the iNM products will come in. So I don't want to spend too much time from my side. I want to start the presentation with Silde Gang, who is the iNM program manager, and we'll put the framework and we'll give you the sequence of the session. Sil, please.
Thank you, Tony. Good morning, everyone. Perhaps something to add on the practicalities. We didn't plan any test of the fire alarm today, at least I'm not aware of it. So if the fire alarm goes off, I can confirm you need to evacuate today. Thank you. iNM, a digital journey. Indeed, that's the title of this presentation, and I'm really glad to see so many people here in the Europa room. It's again full house, although we have some seats that are not taken yet. Perhaps that's something to do with the Belgian beers yesterday evening, I don't know. But again, a full house here, and from the program team, we are really delighted to share with you the latest updates on this digital journey. I would like to go back to yesterday, where we have basically shown to you a lot of slides, a lot of presentation, a lot of statistics about what we expect traffic will be in the coming years. The increase of the traffic capacity, traffic growth is one of the main reasons and one of the main topics we basically decided to take a leapfrog from the system landscape we have today to a future system landscape, which is called the iNM. Because by 2030, we expect 13.8 million flights a year, and we need to have the technology, the system, to be able to cope with that amount of traffic. Now, when we were designing the iNM program a couple of years ago, we were looking at it especially from a technical perspective. You might, and your organizations as well, when you use systems for 15, 20 years or even longer, at a certain moment in time, you are confronted with what we typically call system obsolescence. From a maintainability perspective, in order to evolve those systems, you cannot longer do that in a cost-efficient way. It is simply too costly to future evolve your systems. The technology which you have built up and which you inherit is not able to cope with the latest evolutions. So from a technical perspective, it was quite clear that we needed to do something different. So one of the main reasons why we have basically introduced iNM as the replacement for our current systems is due to system obsolescence. So we could take a decision and state, today we have 20 servers. It's just a hypothetical example here. Tomorrow I replace those 20 servers by another 20 servers. And then I have basically resolved my system obsolescence. Good. I could cross-check one of my major strategic objectives, and I could say, well done, iNM program delivered. But then I also listened yesterday to the keynote speeches of our Director General, Raul, and also to Jacopo, and I'm just going to re-quote some of the elements they have mentioned yesterday. So with iNM and the underlying technology, we need to transform European aviation. We as EUROCONTROL, we need definitely to raise the bar. We need to improve the trajectory to a new reference trajectory which provide us better predictability and also better flight efficiency. Because at the end, digital transformation is part of the house of aviation. So taking these messages into account, simply replacing the current system one-to-one with a new system will not live up to the challenges and the messages that were brought by our Director General and by the Director Network Management. So we needed to think a bit out of the box and do it differently. So one of the main reasons why iNM was also created was not simply to replace the current systems we have, but was also to introduce a transformation to the network. And those are basically the two main reasons and the two main topics we would like to address today in the first part of this presentation. So allow me to show the agenda. It's a bit an unusual agenda. It's not some simple bullet points, because our agenda, it's linked to a timeline. Yesterday, Jacopo mentioned 24, 25, we need to deploy our first operational assets as part of that iNM program. So in order to get there, it's a huge puzzle, and all the pieces of that puzzle need to come together. It needs to be a logical puzzle. So hence the reason why, after my introduction, I would gladly pass the word to Hatice, who is our release manager, and she will basically elaborate on the functional evolutions that we will introduce as part of our last NM release, NM27. If you look at the bottom, there is the new operational center, because it is an integral part, not of the system obsolescence, but an integral part of the digital transformation. The way how we want to manage the network, and Daniel was referring to it yesterday, that new op center will basically put us in a position to better manage the network. That piece will be discussed and basically will be presented by my colleague Mattis, who is the head of the operational transition unit, and he's also spearheading the operational center program. Now in the middle layer, you see the digital products and the digital platform. Well, basically that is the new software, the new applications that we will introduce as part of the iNM program. After Matti's presentation, I will come back to you and I will present you how we will basically deploy those digital products operationally and how we closely work with our trusted industrial partners on that one. So the agenda of today, it's the timeline. And this being said, I would like to pass the floor to Hatice, who will basically elaborate on the functional evolutions of the NM27 release. Thank you.
Thank you, Sil. Hello, good morning to everybody. Thank you, Sil. My name is Hatice Tutar. I'm the EUROCONTROL release manager. It's a real pleasure for me today to be in front of you and to mention about the key role of NM27 for iNM digital journey and to give some insights about NM27. Maybe we can start with the next slide, with the first slide. Okay, sorry, I assume, okay. Now, in the first slide, we would like to mention about what is the role of NM27 in this digital journey. It's very important. The key point is it's providing compliance and also providing many other operational features apart from the CP1. It will secure transition time to iNM. It is the key point that we would like to convey to you. Next key point is after NM27.0, until iNM transition, there will be only technical releases every 6 months to maintain existing services. It is fully in line with the iNM strategical objective to maintain business continuity. And it will help to make a smooth transition to the iNM timely. It's a very important point to take away today for NM27. And then I would like to give some insight about the content of NM27.0. It's only a few key deliveries we would like to spot. yesterday you already see in network strategical session at the end of the day about strategical project evolutions content. It is linked with this one. Today we would like to remind you in a nutshell before leaving user forum what to remember as a key delivery for NM 27.0. But it is not a full scope of NM 27.0. There are many other key deliveries, and we will guide you in the next slide how to get more information for the detailed scope. Now, I would like to point as a key delivery NMP flow first. In the NMP flow, we have introduced cherry peak regulation support. It is very important for the peak time management, and also we also introduce traffic counts and overall load monitoring dashboards, which will be helpful to manage the traffic and capacity for our FMPs, and many other features that you can see in the release notes. The next key delivery is in NMP flight. In the NMP flight, it's very hard to list the things. It is really moving towards maturity state, since we observed that we onboarded all the aircraft operators to NMP flight, and it's getting lots of user feedback. In this release, we focus mainly on the user feedbacks, our airspace users feedback, and improved usability, and also experimented some new data options that you will see in the release notes with the integration with artificial intelligence. And as a third point, in the airspace management, in advanced flexible use of airspace, the key delivery is we introduced the capability for FMPs to locally manage AUP and RAD restrictions. It will be an important local flexibility that will be practiced and implemented in time. Then it's also worth to mention group rerouting. In the group rerouting, there are significant amount of improvements in rerouting tools and algorithms, and to provide better monitoring for you, and also major changes for our stakeholders, for aircraft operators, to provide more rerouting options that you will see in detail, and it is recently experimented and provided promising results. I will advise to look to the details in the detailed sessions in the next slide. Then occupancy CASA is also worth to mention. Since years we progress in this, we studied occupancy CASA prototype, and now it is available for operational live trials, which will be used in time for operational purposes directly. And last but not the least, first phase of improved operational air traffic IOET has been implemented, so that we can send and receive IOET flight plans. So those are the key deliveries today. I would like you to remember in a nutshell for NM 27.0. But please look for the details, for more details to the webinar. Next steps to get more information is I can point mid-March, on 16 March, we have a webinar to see all the details interactively together, and there are many interesting features in the last functional NM release that you can see, and it is mostly satisfying the current needs. And also you will take this week the last updated release notes, and every month at the start of the month you will take another update. So in March and April, you will take the future updates of the release notes with details, so you can refer and scan this document for your interest. And also next week, we are also starting testing of NM 27.0. So to experience these features, it will be an opportunity. Mid next week, our OPT platform will be opened so that you can start to practice. Before closing, I can tell you to get more information. You don't need to wait. Maybe in the break, we can also talk together. And I would like to hand over, as of this point, to my colleague, Matthias, for the new Network Manager Operations Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Hatice. Good morning, everyone. A warm welcome from my side as well. As you see on the slide, small correction, I'm the head of the operations support, not of the transformation. And as Sil mentioned already, I have this small side project creating the new operations center and bringing it into operations, which we're planning to do by end of this year. So without further ado, what the team has achieved is quite impressive, I would say, in terms of time, particularly considering impact on economy, delivery chains post-COVID, and with the war in Ukraine. This formed a major challenge to deliver that project in time. Now, why are we pressing so much? As indicated by Tony in his introduction, what we're trying to do is to de-risk the transition into the new working environment. So usually what is done within ANSPs is that you have the big bang, you have a new operation center, and you have a new system, which forms quite a challenge in terms of training, of transition, and that we wanted to de-risk. So we want to move the operations with the existing systems. A couple of improvements, of course, we will put on top of that. But basically with the existing backbone into the new center, so the people can familiarize with their new working environment. We're making it future-proof, which I will come back later to be ready for the products of iNM. And once the people are familiarized, the first products will be coming in, and the people are ready to work with them. So a few seconds of silence. We started the works, giving some facts or figures on the end of August 2021. We've given the company 15 months to build and construct the building. We're having a total surface of around 5,000 square meters. In the ops building, it's flexible space, at least partly. We have 1 large and 4 smaller operations rooms. We have 5 meeting rooms, a visitor gallery, a recreation area for operational staff, much more improved than we have today. We're aiming for an eco certification of the level excellent, which is the second highest level under a European scheme, which is called BREEAM. And we're having what is unusual for an operations rooms. It has windows. Normally operations rooms are quite dark and closed because of reflection, because of daylight. We wanted to achieve that people can see outside, but they are properly protected from an ergonomic point of view. So we have decided to go for electrochromic glass. So this is providing also for some state of the art, and that formed a huge challenge in itself. So the construction took place in record time. And for the ease for you, I've put in a couple of slides, which I want to run through now. You will see it takes a couple of seconds, a picture of each month, and it gives you kind of a time-lapse feeling how fast and rapidly that building was constructed. So this was in August 2021. Okay, the transition is not working. Oh, it does. This was 1 month later, then October, November, December 21. So you see it was growing really rapidly. A lot of the concrete parts, because it's around building, were produced actually on site, step by step. So the logistics behind that with the space we have was really a challenge. You see here the building of the roof. It's super insulated. We have beams of wood of 25 meters each, constructed like a spike of a bicycle, which is supporting itself. And as you see, we will also have a nice terrace on top of it. You saw the solar panels probably. So we're providing with all of that. And the company has been very, very creative, because for the certification, for example, we needed to create a certain amount of electricity with the solar panels. So originally the plan was to have them on the roof of the new building and some of our existing building. To fulfill that, in the course of the project, the company found a better supplier with higher performing panels, so we could generate the same with only panels on the new building. So they have been very reactive and very proactive to make things happen. And so we made a good decision with that partner, because they really tried to make that happen together. Not to forget, of course, the architect and the engineering offices that supported all of that. Now, more interesting how it's going to be looking inside. As you have seen, it's a round building, which forms a couple of challenges. To meet that timeline, we have done this project probably upside down, you could say. So there was first a building designed, and then we started to capture the requirements actually for the operational part. High level, we knew them, of course, before. But then we had to work on the interior design and layout, and then all the ergonomic and functional requirements kick in, and they're usually contradicting each other. So suddenly that big space becomes quite narrow if you want to fulfill everything to the part you need. But we got there. So one of the ideas was, you will see here, this is a ground floor scape. So you see on the right marked, this will be the NMOC room. What we're aiming for, and you can see that already in the design and the layout, what we're aiming for, in contrary what we have today, we have functions in the existing ops room. Some of you may have seen that already. And the people have to work on dedicated desks for certain functions. What we wanted to achieve to be ready for the future is that the people can do anything from any of the consoles. So that means all the consoles will be like each other, same number of screens, the same design. And what we're planning to do, and we're busy with that at the moment, we're putting a virtualization layer on top of our backbone. And that means, and that was one of my demands, to say I want a clean desk policy. I don't want any big computers under the desks. So what we're having here in this layout is we have two thin clients in the desks, one for operations, one for non-operations contact. These are boxes like you know from your home, the Wi-Fi boxes. They're not bigger than that. And whatever in the future then comes from iNM, we can push it through that pipeline. We don't need to change the technology in the ops room itself. So we're ready for the future, but we can support the as-is as well. Moving a little bit on, you see these two walls downstairs are retractable, so we can actually open that space. So we are flexible in space, whatever comes in the future. Behind that, you see on the left downside, we're putting the front-end IT support, first and second level support together, just beside the operations room. So here all our systems and backbones are monitored and worked on if needed. We're putting the operations training one room in there, same consoles. So it's always familiar for the operational staff. Then we have some meeting rooms downstairs, two small ones, one just reserved for the NMOC, one is a flex one for the staff working there. And at the end, we have a larger meeting room. These larger meeting rooms, and you will see that on the next level, we're also using in crisis situations as crisis rooms, if need be. Then we have some support services, partly from my unit, which is, for example, the roster office. The training experts will be sitting there. On the other side, which is from my colleague, Chris Peregrine, the post-operational analysis team will be sitting there. So we're putting the main functions together that they have short ways and can interact. Then we're going to the next floor. You see it is like a veranda. So the main operations room is 8 meters high to the roof. Here we are placing on the downside, we're placing the user acceptance testing team. It's the current system acceptance team, which is converting to the user acceptance testing team, supporting the iNM. As there will be a lot of interaction between them and the operation staff, we thought it would be beneficial if they're in the same building. And here on the other side, something which we're doing in the current ops room are pre-validations. For example, with FMPs or with airline operators, we're doing pre-validations of system changes in the ops room, which can be quite noisy. So we decided to create an extra room for that to keep the noise outside the operational room, but have it close as well. Then you see here, we have quite a large visitor gallery with a window towards the ops room. You can probably see when you look at the right side, there will be very large screens on the wall of the operation center, each of them more than 15 square meters, LED technology, where we can display dynamic information, which is useful for the operational staff, but also for visitors, of course. We had a very good input from one of our operations managers saying, well, why don't you put a console actually in the visitors gallery so we can demonstrate the systems in the gallery and there's no need for people to go directly into the ops room and disturb the operations, which was a great idea, and we're going to do that. The two meeting rooms, which also will be crisis rooms, as I said, they are separated, but they can be combined into one room. Also there is a retractable wall, so we have flexibility in the usage of that space. Here in the back, there will be a coffee bar, which is a very nice one. We are also putting a dedicated room for the self-briefing of staff, which is very common with ANSPs as well. So here you see is one of the entrances on the first floor. This is usually the way we anticipate that staff will take from the garage. So first thing they do, they come into the building, they do their self-briefing, and they put their stuff in the lockers and go into the operations room. So they will be properly briefed before they take up their duties. This is then coming to the recreation area for the shift staff. So we have a nice little terrace on the outside. Here is the lounge area with kitchen, with the coffee bar. We'll put a kicker in for relaxation. And then left and right, we have our enhanced rest facilities. So we created a new abbreviation, which is called EARTH. So these are the enhanced rest facilities with some sleeping and recreation rooms, showers, and so forth, whatever is needed for the staff. So that finalizes the interior layout of the building. We're starting the equipage of the building this month. Also there, we have a very tight planning. We want to be ready with all the technical installations by end of April this year, including the IT installations. Then we take a full month of testing. And it is the aim that by beginning of June, technically speaking, the building would be ready to go into live operations. Then we use that period over the summer for actually familiarization of the staff. So the different services, the operational services, we have created quite a number of familiarization packages. Some will be with videos. There is no specific training as such required. As I said, we're going in with the existing system, so there's no training on the systems needed. But of course, the desks are a little bit different. The number of screens is different. Working with the thin clients is a bit different. So we need to familiarize them how to work there properly. You see this line is a little bit broken because we're in the summer period. And as you heard before, the summer will become very challenging. So we will adjust the familiarization depending on the workload of the people. But we have enough time for that. We're preparing then the transition, and at the moment the date is set for the night of the 30th to the 31st of October to go live into operations from the new operation center. If all works out like that, we can do it in one night shift. Of course, we will enforce a little bit the teams. We will keep the existing ops center on hot standby for at least 2 months, maybe 3. So we can fall back if anything goes wrong. We don't think we will need it, but just to be sure, we're preparing that. And alongside, we're building these safety arguments for the transition itself. We have an assurance argument for the building, which is almost complete. We have agreed with EASA on how to follow up so they can certify that we can use that new building for the operations uninterrupted and provide our services without actually someone outside noticing it. So, of course, communication is part of that. So we have a lot of communications with staff. Also, this is a part of the communication informing you on what we're planning to do. And that's the plan. Very ambitious. We're on target at the moment, which doesn't mean it would be easy. I'm working in crisis mode with the team since 2 years now, but we're getting there. And I think everybody is quite proud on what we have achieved. So that concludes a little bit the introduction. And I'll pass back to my colleague Sil for the next round. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I know, Stephen, that was for Mattis. I know. No. Jokes aside, thank you very much, Hatice and Mattis. And I think it was nice to see how basically those pieces of the puzzle have been basically put there in order to prepare for iNM, for the software pieces that will come with iNM. And we all know that the proof of that pudding is in the eating. So allow me to share the challenges that software program and the iNM program has, but also the necessary steps we have taken in order to secure to the maximum extent the 2 dates that were communicated earlier by Jacopo. So I'm not going to give you a history course. That's not the aim of this slide, but I would like to go back to February 22, when we basically launched the call for tender for the software part of iNM. And the reason why I would like to go back to February 2020 is, you know that in March 2020, there was COVID popping up, which did not really help us during the tendering phase. But again, also there, we took the necessary steps to secure that we could contract our industry partners on time. Now, it was what I would potentially state an atypical call for tender if we look at the ATM business. because what we often see is that we take a couple of years to draft requirements, and we publish those requirements as part of a call for tender, and we ask industry to come back and to provide us with a solution. Now with iNM, we did it differently. We gave a problem to industry, a problem statement, and we contracted a capacity to provide a solution. So the difference between buying a solution or buying a capacity of a solution is obviously that you can reduce the timeline for your tendering phase, but also reduce the timeline in the total program process, because you don't elaborate a lot on the requirements in the beginning, but you also need to put necessary mechanisms in place to do that requirement phase along the program implementation. Now, when we were launching the call for tender, we obviously looked at other industry sectors, and we looked at what they are doing in terms of transforming their IT systems, their software systems. And a kind of a red line throughout our journey in discovering what other industries are doing was basically modern architecture is built on what we typically call a platform, a digital platform. Now, in order to secure the aggressive timeline that was set by our management, we decided to start initial development on that platform rather early in the process. So we took one of our legacy suppliers and we asked them to basically start building the initial capabilities, common capabilities that you will always find in such a platform, in order to secure we would have a platform, an initial version of that platform at the initial stages of the software development of the program. Again, I said that it was a challenging timeline, and COVID was not always helping. I hope you do understand that typically in those call for tenders, you would like to engage as much as possible with potential new suppliers. You would also like to do reference visits to look at how they work with other clients. Well, I think we have optimized the usage of Teams during that period, so we could secure in July 21 two main contracts. So we have one contract with our industry partner Indra, who is responsible for the software development, and also as of last year is responsible to further evolve the initial version of that digital platform to their needs, to how they see what the platform should provide to the application layer. And we have contracted another lot, the lot 2, which is a consortium of Atos and Kronos, so two big IT companies, and they are responsible to test and integrate the software, but also to provide the necessary, if needed, advisory services for EUROCONTROL. Now, once we started that contract and the execution of the contract, as mentioned before, we didn't buy a solution. So I could not go and ask Indra start developing, because the solution was not there yet. We had initial ideas, which we contracted, initial orders, to basically see how are we going to work with that industry partner. But the first steps we took is we basically locked our industry partners and our colleagues, we locked them up into meeting rooms, and we asked them, today we have a system landscape. Well, how is that system landscape going to look like once we have transitioned to iNM? And this is what we call the integrated roadmap. It gives also a business view on how the different functionalities of the applications will evolve in a stepped approach towards the full iNM delivery. Now, once you have such a roadmap, you cannot build a full plan yet. It's a high-level roadmap. So we needed to basically use the ways how we worked with industry during the initial orders. And I would like to come back to how we work with our industry partners, because it is also part of that digital transformation. Today, if you look at how we managed to functionally evolve the systems as part of the NM release, it was EUROCONTROL basically developing the software. So we have a software factory in-house, and we provide the functionalities to our stakeholders. With iNM, it's different. it's our industry partner, Indra, who will basically develop the software for EUROCONTROL. So it's not EUROCONTROL anymore that develops the software. We trust our industry partners to do that for us. Taking into account those ways of working and taking into account the huge work of the architectural teams that was done after we have drafted the integrated roadmap, we could basically secure a plan for the initial operational deliverables in 24-25, which we have basically drafted into what we called the master program plan. Yeah? So these were the different steps we have taken from a more software perspective in order to get to a plan which is basically leading to the initial operational deployments in 24-25. Now again, as Jacopo likes to show this slide, I thought I'm going to reuse it just to make it clear that it's a very aggressive timeline. And as Matthijs already stated, this is not going to be an easy one. And we fully acknowledge that one. Also with our industry partners, we are fully aware of the challenges in front of us because deploying the first operational products in now not 2 years anymore, the time is ticking. It thinks we are around 660 days left, is a true challenge. Now just to, and I'm not going to enter into too much detail on this one, is that those plans, we have built them. So there are responsibilities for EUROCONTROL, there are responsibilities on the industry side. So the interdependencies between all the activities that we need to do in order to deploy operationally in 24-25, they have been identified, and we are fully working with our industry partners, Indra and Atos, to basically deliver those targets on time. This is for the wave one. You see that there are some initial developments on the flight and the flow domain, but the main focus as part of the initial operational developments is purely the EAD system. But again, what is in for you as a user, for you as business, that will be tackled afterwards by my colleague Ralph. You will see also that we put a bit more pressure on Indra for the second wave because there is more software that needs to be produced as part of that operational deliverable. You see there that we will also introduce some evolutions on the DMP, the crisis management, and we will basically port our main systems, IFPS and ITFMS, into that new architecture. So we will port them on top of the digital platform. Again, the way how we work with industry, I think we have spent a lot of time at the start of the program to define this one because it's a brand new way of working. So also internally within the EUROCONTROL teams, this is a huge change. So we have also identified a specific change management trajectory in order to implement the different changes that are needed to get to those new ways of working. At the first stage, EUROCONTROL basically provides the service requirements, and I would like to come back and link it to what was presented yesterday in terms of the different CONOPSes that we are drafting, and also the inputs we are requesting from the operational stakeholders as part of those CONOPSes. Well, without the CONOPS and without the associated service requirements, we cannot ask our industry partner to start the development. So we are really encouraging the operational stakeholders to contribute to a maximum extent to those working groups as part of the CONOPS definition. Now, as mentioned before, we know that EUROCONTROL is not developing the software itself anymore, but we do validate it. So EUROCONTROL remains accountable throughout the whole process, but the responsibility to develop the software lies clearly with our industry partners. And last but not least, on the testing activities, especially when we go to user acceptance testing and entry into operations, there again, EUROCONTROL, together with our operational stakeholders, will be fully involved again. This being said, I have one slide on that famous digital platform. I'm not going to enter into the technical details. If you would like to do so, feel free to raise any questions you would have during the Q&A session or at the lunch break. We have our technical experts here attending, so they can elaborate much more on the technicalities. But what is important as part of that, part of the digital platform. It's a technical layer, but it will standardize a lot of the capabilities that we today typically are developed in an application, and then they are developed a bit differently in another application. We are going to standardize that as much as possible, also with commercial off-the-shelf software, and that will basically enable us to present common capabilities to the application here. Just for as an example, for instance, the way how we will manage the identity and the access management will be done by the platform, for instance. Now, I think I've spent enough time on planning activities. We have touched upon how we see the software development. We have touched upon some technical elements on the digital platform. So I think it's time that we will share with you our business view. And for that one, I am going to hand over to Ralph, who will basically elaborate much more on that topic. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. Welcome. And so I will indeed focus my presentation on the business view of iNM. iNM brings digital transformation at the heart of EUROCONTROL, and it's going to really transform the European ATM in the next years, as our DJ said yesterday. So today, I'll give you a high-level overview of the functional content of the wave 1, the wave 2, and even beyond. Then I'll briefly come back on the achievements of the last 12 to 18 months. And finally, I'll zoom on some of the main wave 2 deliverables. So let's start. So wave 1, shadow operations for early adopters also, is on 29 November 2024. And it's going to provide the initial IDL, integrated data layer, which we've limited to AES data maintenance features. It will also bring and introduce a new feature, which is digital NOTAM, which we do not have at the moment, for CPI compliancy and for early adopters only. And it's a set of 8 scenarios that are needed. Then we have the wave 2, the famous wave 2 in 15 May 2025. That's where it's the first delivery for full operations. And there we'll deliver a new iteration of the IDL, the partial IDL, which will integrate the EAD capabilities. We'll also replatform some of our main backend systems, IFPS and ETFMS, for which we do not foresee impact on you, or at least major impact. Then we'll bring in a set of other improvements, which I will detail in further slides, like DNP, the crisis management, and the NM user interface. Then wave 3 and beyond will deliver the full IDL, the full integrated data layer, so integrating also CACD capabilities, our central airspace and capacity database, into one consistent model and set of workflows. We'll also develop a brand new airspace management digital product, okay, for civil military airspace usage coordination. And we'll be able to enable across the board simulation network impact assessment, thanks to IDL being the enabler for that. That brings all the data in one place. We'll be able to really improve the way we do network performance. Then we'll bring also an integrated fight and flow. So a new or evolved integrated IFPS and ETFMS, which will bring also single flight view. So achieve single flight state. Finally, we'll continue phases of the NMUI evolutions. One phase will be to be ready to start the decommission of the CHMI. Another one will be the replacement of the EHMI, so the ETFMS HMI, that is mainly used in the NMOC. Finally, we'll bring a set of capabilities around data services, business intelligence, and machine learning. So, to look back a little bit, what's been achieved in the last 12 to 18 months. So we first launched the business teams. So we got a very diverse, highly skilled, young, dynamic team of product owners, business analysts, and we defined all the ways of working, the processes, liaise also with the other parts of the network management for ConOps expertise, strategy, etc. Then we defined the digital product roadmap, which is based on the service roadmap that has been mentioned yesterday, which is listing all the capabilities that the NM systems are providing. And based on this service catalog, on the current limitations that we have, the technical depth and the planned evolution, especially with the high-level NM ConOps that has been published recently, we have defined the transition steps of the current systems or new systems and services to this new ecosystem of digital products, running on the target architecture, which is, as Phil has presented, the digital platform. Then, with this digital product roadmap and these steps, it means that we have defined or we have identified a set of orders that we needed, a comprehensive set of orders that we needed to deliver wave 1 and 2, and some of which we have already signed and kicked off. For example, DNP editor or IES data management phase 1, NMUI phase 1. So then we've worked on the user outreach, so internal and external, through the ConOpses and this, you know, through NetOps and NetSys, but also HMI consultations. We have communicated through the EUROCONTROL working arrangements, also the steering groups. We even had in the last EAD SSG a dedicated day on iNM, because EAD services are really the first big delivery in wave 2 for iNM. Then we've trialed the ecosystem. We had to set up processes, tools, working practices, working in a complete new setup, as Sil has explained, with industry partners in a fixed price mode, fully outsourced. So for that, we had 2 initial orders of a reduced, so small scope, but really to test the system. So one initial order based on IDL was a stepping stone to the IDL delivery and the EAD replacement in wave 2. And this was done in more an agile mode, because we wanted to see how we can deliver very quickly, small steps, small iterations of features, and be able also to adapt. And then we did another initial order to validate architectural assumptions, mostly around ETFMS. And due to the complexity of the problems that we want to address, we used another way, which is more an iterative way of development, where we have some bigger chunks delivered, but where the roadmap is more clear. Finally, we kicked off a lot of ConOps with our colleagues from strategy, like the 4D trajectory ConOps that has been presented yesterday and that is already under review. We had the flow, airspace management, IDL are under development at the moment. And then we have also launched some smaller dedicated focus groups on flight plan assessment and alerting systems. So the famous TCO, SAFA, ACC3, and also around safety, for example, the call sign similarity tool and features. Also B2B, voilà. So we are preparing, as Sil has explained, all the requirements that we need in a timely manner to be able to deliver as planned. So what's happening next? So I will now zoom on the main deliverables for the next 2 years, and mainly wave 2, the details. 3 main pillars: the integrated data layer, the DNP, dynamic network plan, and the crisis management tools, and the NM user, the new NM user interface. So on the integrated data layer, it's going to be the first a partial release of IDL with a brand new EAD, so supporting EAD capabilities, but ready for the digital world, meaning introducing digital NOTAM. Full digital NOTAM, enhanced pre-information briefing, will also include Meteo in the pre-information briefing by using the operational Meteo data. Will support the current and latest version of the IXM format, 511, and will bring a modernized user interface. So on that one, I added a slide to explain a little bit how it will happen, because it's really a major change, or at least it's a big delivery. So we are planning a smooth but swift transition while ensuring business continuity. For that, we're involving the users on the new or refreshed HMIs. We are involving them also on the migration planning and the definition of early adopters concept and how this is all going to work. Early adopters in 2024, they will have access to early versions of the software, participate to user acceptance. They will be the first batch of users to transition on the new EAD systems or the partial IDL. The migration of EAD clients will be gradual and include training and certification aspects, but this transition phase will last 2 years and end in 2027. Then on the dynamic network plan and crisis, so we'll go from daily to a dynamic network plan with an enhanced editor, including briefing and feedback capabilities, mainly for NMOC. And this is a pioneer project for iNM because we are prototyping together with you, the stakeholders. So we have AO, FMP representatives, and I would like on behalf also of my team to really thank you for your participation, active participation. I think this is also part of the digital transformation and the new way that we want to develop software, by really involving you in the beginning, prototyping together and delivering what is needed. We'll also develop a fully new interactive and visual network plan, focus on what matters to you, because you know the network plan at the moment is a PDF. Here you will be able, on an interactive map, to really see what is of interest to your area. Then we'll consolidate all the crisis management tools in a coherent and easily accessible manner. And I think what is important to notice, and I've already said a little bit earlier, is that until 26, 27, except EAD, DNP, and crisis, the service offering will remain stable. Okay, so including CHMI, B2B, we'll continue to build on B2B. So these are the changes that we foresee for 25 and nothing else for the moment. Then, and this is my last slide, it's the introduction of the NM user interface, or shortly called NMUI. So it's a single entry point to NM, giving you direct access to the tools and information you need. Okay, we'll have a brand new information hub, grouping at a glance all the key network information. For example, the DNP view, the DNP viewer will show a map with what we are with some network issues, headline news, etc. Everything will be maintenance, whatever. It will all be on one screen. Then we'll leverage, and this is important. We'll leverage on all NMP applications and user groups. So everything that has been done for NMP flow, NMP flight, the user consultations, we will continue on that. We do not restart from scratch. I think what has been done is really great, and we are really capitalizing on that and continuing to make it even more tailored to you users, to your tasks, sorry. And finally, on a more technical side, we are also improving the EUROCONTROL design system and the integration guidelines, this to deliver a fresh, consistent look and feel across the board. Okay, this concludes my presentation. So I'll give you the floor.
Thank you very much to all the team. So we have now a first hands-on view at what's going to happen in the next 2 years. We also have with us the Chief of Technology and all the head of the units of the technology division prepared to answer any technical questions, but obviously from ops, user and technical perspective, we are ready to answer any questions that you have, either by using the yellow cards for later in the Q&A, but for now on, I would like to open the floor and see if there are any questions, thoughts and views. And of course, I'd like to thank the suppliers that we have there in the room, Indra and Atos, and thank you to all the partners for this titanic journey that we do together. So we have also other slides, but I think it was enough on slides. Yes. Yes, please mention your name and the organization and shoot the question.
Yeah, good morning all. Coşkun Koşal from Sun Express Airlines, Turkey. Sid was mentioning about companies or software companies who will produce the software for the EUROCONTROL. But do you have enough, or does the companies or the software companies have enough aviation background? Does this software will cater our needs? Or does the EUROCONTROL has enough source to support them? If not, we are more than happy to support or test or contribute on this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I can assure you they have enough aviation experience. It's one of the criteria on why we selected them. They are known for all the ATM systems that they produced around the world. Also, the other partner, which is in the second contract that we signed, these two big contracts that still mentioned. One is, we call it DPRO, which is led by Indra, and the other one is led by the consortium called ACE, which is Atos. It's a French company, 210,000 employees around the world, and a Belgian company, Kronos. Atos and Kronos, they were previous suppliers of EUROCONTROL. Also, the Atos, it's in the third framework contract that we have to supply the infrastructure of EUROCONTROL. So they are not really newcomers on the market. So maybe also to explain a bit until you, but thank you for offering. We will need all of you for when we start operational testing, and also all this prototyping and focus groups and stakeholders involvement on what you would like to see, the interfaces, data that you want to access, and so on. So any other questions? Yes, in the back, please.
Thank you. Hervé Damiano from DSNA. Have you studied the potential impact of the overall network performance during the transition? And if so, can you give us a flavor of your outcomes?
Yes, and I think that is one of the constant worries, and that's why before switching to the new system, what is very important is what we are telling you all the time about this digital platform. The way how you connect to us and where these applications will sit, they need to ensure the performance, which we will probably not have it if we will continue to evolve. For sure, we will not have it if we will continue to evolve with the current systems. So the digital platform is there to enhance the scalability and the speed of accessing. So Rozvan wants to take further, and then I'm looking in the back if the team wants to add anything other. Jean-Michel.
I think this is a very good question, and it addresses also the operational transition, like for any other system. And I think this was your question. We have very good news in this sense. Actually, next week we will start discussing the details of the transitioning on the user interfaces. It was mentioned several times in the presentation made by Ralph. And in the course of this year, probably even before the summer, we will come to you, because this will not be our decision, to present you with this transition plan and to start planning actually what needs to be done from an operational transition point of view with the airlines, with the FMPs, with the AMCs, etc., etc., etc. What is also good to know is that the current interfaces that we have, especially those that we presented yesterday with respect to the N-Connect, what we do expect is that they will be put on the digital platform without any major changes compared to what you have today. And many of you have been part over a number of years on the development of the flight flow RAD interfaces. And we had quite a good feedback from the airlines, from the NSPs concerning the flow interface, from the national RAD coordinators on the RAD interface. So all this is expected not to change too much, and this is a good thing. And after we re-platform all this, of course, the new evolutions will start. But of course, as usual, the new evolutions of game will be discussed with you, because we are not going to make the new evolutions just for our own. You've seen yesterday's Impino's presentation, for instance, on the cooperative traffic management. We have a bulk of new evolutions that we are foreseeing to happen after we stabilize the situation with iNM, and everything that we have currently goes on iNM. I don't want to start giving now dates. I prefer to wait for a couple of weeks before we come and give some precise dates. But this is inside the house very well in hand.
Thank you. I think we answered the question.
If I may, just to come back from the ops center opening perspective, there will be nil effect on the network and the service provision. So that's at the end of October, beginning of November this year, when the new center goes operational. Because we're moving on the same system, as Mattis explained, you should see no issues there at all, and it'll all be fully tested in advance, just in case there's any lack of clarity there. Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead.
Robert Winkert, DFS Germany. Raswan mentioned the N-Connect like Pino yesterday, and Hatice mentioned the NM27 and some technical updates, especially in the RAD application, which is operational since a couple of years. We have got still some bugs which we'd like to have fixed, and we as the operators have the feeling that in the past months there was no capacity at NM whatsoever fixing those bugs, and we hope that those bugs will be fixed soon to relieve the pressure on the RAD team, and as well to have more or less effort for the RAD coordinators using it.
Yeah, I want to reassure that it goes without saying in these technical fixes, but also bug fixing, hot fixes issues that will continue. So in fact, that's one is the fine trade-off that we need to do, and ensuring business continuity and then bringing developments in time. So yeah, in the back, please.
Yeah, good morning, Dirk Bresser, Schiphol Airport. Actually, what I kind of miss in the ANSP and airline perspectives is obviously the airport perspective. And we're building a new AODB right now, an airport operational database, which I'd love to, well, at least integrate or start with, collaborate with EUROCONTROL in terms of, well, lighten up the black box that airport operation is. So I'll be very happy to collaborate with you on that from an airport perspective.
Razvan will tackle that.
Yeah, what is important to say is that at this point in time, we develop three concepts of operations. We've alluded to that yesterday. Based on the network concept of operations, we are developing a 4D trajectory concept of operations that is in a very deep stage of consultation right now. Probably we will have it finalized by summer 2023. And this concept of operations will be the basis for the detailed future evolutions of iNM. The second one covers ATF ASM evolutions that will be finalized fully after the summer, but will enter in consultation prior to the summer. And the last but not the least is the IDL, the data layer concept of operations, that will include all the data aspects. Initially, it was a very trivial thing. We were thinking EAD, CACD, simple thing, but it evolves into something that is extremely forward thinking, and that aims for the final stage of the iNM operations in terms of data management. And there we had a very good, I don't know if no, Vincent is not here. We had a very good discussion already with our airports operations unit to include much better than we have today the airports part into it. And I'm very happy to hear that, because please bring to Vincent absolutely all the elements that you would like to see integrated in the system. This is the right moment. We are writing the concept now. It will go in consultation prior to the summer, and we would very much love to have this kind of forward-looking thinking in the concept. Many thanks.
Thank you, Razvan. No stakeholder and no data left behind, basically. Yes.
Hi, Ismail Polat from Istanbul Airport. Quite an ambitious plan and very detailed information. Thank you very much for that. Just a quick question, if you can mention a few things about cybersecurity and resilience of the system, which I'm sure it's all being thought inherently. I think it will be good what next steps are considered in terms of cybersecurity and resilience.
Okay, Martin Kutilek, you want to take that?
Good morning. Yeah, of course, cybersecurity is very key in all digital element today. Of course, we're taking that very seriously. So, of course, all the concepts, secure by design, secure by default, are taken into there. I don't know if you have any kind of more specific question on that, that I'll be happy to answer. But of course, security is at the core of all the concept.
So, yeah, just to complement, thanks, Martin. So indeed, the architectural work that we have done, especially of part of the first two waves, they take fully into account security aspects and also the cybersecurity aspects. I think also on that one, we leverage on the knowledge our industry partners they do have, and not only Indra, but also Atos as a big IT company. So all that knowledge is brought into the exercise. And so from the design phase, we take it very seriously to include all the elements related to security and cybersecurity, to make sure that we design them from the start, so that they are fully taken into account once we basically start developing the software.
Thank you. Anything further? So we are either very clear or it's very early in the day. You are in a need for the coffee. Maybe until you are thinking any further questions, I want to come back to this last point that Sil made. Before any order is signed or any work is starting, what we see for every product, for every order, it's the architecture outline. And where the architecture team of the suppliers in EUROCONTROL, they work on the technologies, cybersecurity, the way how we access it, is it enough for ensuring the flexibility, scalability, and the speeds that we want? And how do we do, which tools, which licenses we need, how the software factory is fitted for purpose, and so on. And that is escalated to the different levels of governance. And once it's agreed, then we go and do any type of coding.